Hello there, Toon Army. What an absolutely brilliant day to be talking about our magnificent Newcastle United, the best team in the world. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and ready to dive into some exciting news about our beloved Magpies. Right, then, I've got two absolutely cracking stories for you today that are going to get us all talking. Before we dive in, let me ask you this. How confident are you feeling about keeping our Swedish sensation, Alexander Isak, at St. James Park for another season? And what are your thoughts on potentially reigniting that Marc Guehi pursuit now that Paul Mitchell is on his way out? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I'm dying to hear what you all think. Now then, let's talk about some absolutely fantastic news that's got me buzzing with excitement. The transfer guru himself, Fabrizio Romano, has just dropped some information that's music to every Newcastle fan's ears when it comes to keeping our phenomenal striker, Alexander Isak, right here where he belongs, at the greatest club in the world. First off, let's just take a moment to appreciate what an absolute gem we have in Alexander Isak. 23 goals in the Premier League this season. 23! The lad has been absolutely sensational, hasn't he? He's been the driving force behind our incredible return to the Champions League. And honestly, watching him play week in and week out has been pure poetry in motion. There's something truly special about the way he glides across the pitch, the way he finds those impossible angles, and the way he makes even the most difficult finishes look effortless. Eddie Howe knows exactly what we've got on our hands with Isak, and he's absolutely desperate to keep him at the club this summer. And who can blame him? Finding another striker with Isak's combination of pace, technical ability, and finishing prowess would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. The Swedish international has become absolutely integral to everything we do going forward, and losing him would be catastrophic for our Champions League ambitions. The vultures have been circling, haven't they? Liverpool and Arsenal have both been sniffing around our golden boy, with Arsenal particularly persistent in their pursuit. During the January window, those Gunners were quoted an absolutely eye-watering $150 million for Isak's services. Can you believe that? $150 million. While it shows just how highly rated our striker is across the football world, it also demonstrates the lengths other clubs are willing to go to pry him away from Tyneside. Arsenal were clearly banking on us, missing out on Champions League qualification, thinking it would give them a better chance of luring Isak away from St. James's Park. They probably thought that without European football, we wouldn't be able to match their ambitions or satisfy Isak's hunger for top-level competition. Well, how wrong they were. Our incredible final day qualification for the Champions League wasn't just a massive achievement for the club. It was also a crucial factor in our fight to keep our star man. But here's where Romano's update becomes absolutely brilliant news for us. The Italian transfer expert has confirmed that Arsenal are now set to begin serious negotiations for RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko. This 21-year-old Slovenian striker has been on Arsenal's radar for ages, and it looks like Mikel Arteta is finally ready to make his move. Now you might be wondering why this is good news for us, and I'll tell you exactly why. With Arsenal focusing their attention and resources on Sesko, it dramatically reduces the pressure on us to sell Isak. Arteta has been desperate for an out-and-out striker for what feels like forever, and if he can get Sesko, that desperation disappears. No more constant speculation linking them with our Swedish sensation. No more astronomical bids that might tempt our ownership. And no more sleepless nights for US fans worrying about losing our most precious asset. The timing couldn't be better. For us either. Newcastle's hierarchy have been working behind the scenes to prepare a new contract offer for Isak. One that would not only reward him for his incredible performances, but also demonstrate our ambition to build something truly special around him. With Champions League football secured and Arsenal looking elsewhere, we're in the perfect position to convince Isak that right then. Let's dive into the second story that's got everyone talking around St. James's Park. The departure of Paul Mitchell and what it might mean for our long-standing pursuit of Crystal Palace's Marc Guehi. Now this is a proper, interesting tale that shows how sometimes in football, what seems like a setback can actually turn into a massive advantage. Paul Mitchell's time at Newcastle has been, shall we say, a bit of a mixed bag. The man arrived at our club in July 2024 with a reputation as a shrewd operator in the transfer market, someone who could navigate the tricky waters of PSR regulations and still bring in quality players. But here's the thing, nearly a year later, he's yet to make a single major signing for Newcastle United. Not one. That's quite remarkable when you think about it, especially for someone brought in specifically to oversee our transfer activities. Now before we get too critical, let's be fair to Mitchell here. The man was operating under incredibly restrictive PSR conditions that would have made even the most experienced sporting directors pull their hair out. The financial regulations have been an absolute nightmare for clubs like ours who want to invest and grow. And Mitchell found himself with his hands tied behind his back more often than not. It's like trying to build a house with a hammer, but being told you can only use it on Tuesdays. The Marc Guehi situation last summer perfectly encapsulates the frustrations Mitchell must have felt. Here was a player that Eddie Howe absolutely wanted, a centre-back who could transform our defence and take us to the next level. We're talking about an England international, a player who's proven himself at the highest level, and someone who would have been an absolutely fantastic addition to our squad. Newcastle went all out for him, offering a staggering $70 million to Crystal Palace. £70 million. Let that sink in for a moment. That's serious money. The kind of investment that shows just how much we rated Guehi and how committed we were to backing Eddie Howe in the transfer market. But Crystal Palace, bless them, weren't having any of it. They rejected our final offer, and according to TalkSport's Alex Crook, they were left feeling quite angry and exasperated by how Mitchell handled the entire pursuit. Now this is where things get really interesting. From a Newcastle perspective, Crook suggests that Mitchell's approach during those negotiations actually damaged our relationship with Crystal Palace to the point where it became virtually impossible to get the deal done. That's quite a damning assessment, isn't it? It implies that the way we conducted our business left such a sour taste that Palace essentially slammed the door shut on any potential deal. But here's where this story takes a fascinating turn, and why I think Mitchell's departure might actually be a blessing in disguise for our Guehi hopes. Crook himself has suggested that with Mitchell out of the picture, Newcastle might be able to revisit their interest in the England defender. It'll be interesting once Paul Mitchell leaves whether Newcastle revisit their interest in Guehi. He said, "I don't see that deal being done all the time. Mitchell is still in situ." That's essentially saying that Mitchell's presence was actually a barrier to getting Guehi, which is quite extraordinary when you think about it. The very person brought in to facilitate transfers was potentially preventing one of our biggest targets from happening. It's like having a key that doesn't fit the lock you're trying to open. But here's the truly brilliant part of this whole saga. Our failure to sign Guehi last summer might have been one of the best things that could have happened to Newcastle United. I know that sounds mental, but hear me out on this one. When we missed out on Guehi, it felt like a disaster at the time. Fans were frustrated. Eddie Howe was disappointed. And it seemed like another example of us falling short in the transfer market when it really mattered. Fast forward to now, and look what we've achieved. We won the Carabao Cup, our first major trophy in decades. We qualified for the Champions League, something that seemed like a distant dream not too long ago. We did all of this without Guehi, proving that sometimes the players you don't sign are just as important as the ones you do. More importantly, our failure to complete major signings in 2024 has actually put us in a much stronger position for this summer's transfer window. The PSR constraints that plagued us last year are no longer the nightmare they once were, thanks partly to some clever business with player sales. Mitchell's deals for Miguel Almiron and Lloyd Kelly helped ease those financial pressures. And ironically, not spending $70 million on Guehi means we have more flexibility now. It's quite poetic when you think about it. By not getting the player we desperately wanted last summer, we've actually created the conditions where we might be able to get him this summer, potentially along with other targets we've identified. We're now preparing for what could be a transformative transfer window, with Newcastle eyeing 4 new signings to really kick on from our Champions League qualification. The timing of Mitchell's departure at the end of June could hardly be better for a potential Guehi move. With the damaged relationship between Mitchell and Crystal Palace no longer a factor, we can approach this transfer with a clean slate, new negotiations, new approach, and hopefully a much better outcome. Eddie Howe still rates Guehi as his top centre-back target, and rightly so. The England international would bring exactly the kind of quality and leadership we need to compete at the highest level in Europe. With our improved PSR position and Mitchell out of the equation, this summer might finally be when we get our man. It's fascinating how football works sometimes, isn't it? What seemed like failures and setbacks have actually positioned us perfectly for success. Mitchell's inability to make major signings preserved our financial flexibility. Our missed opportunity with Guehi last summer helped us achieve our goals without overspending, and now his departure might be the key to finally landing our long-term target. Well, that's all from St. James's Park for today. Lads and lasses, 2 absolutely cracking stories that show why supporting Newcastle United is never boring. From keeping hold of our Swedish sensation Isak to potentially finally landing Guehi. These are exciting times to be a Magpie. Keep supporting the best team in the world, and I'll be back with more updates soon. How way the lads?